Pfizer, vaccines, climate, and if needed, we're going to see a war here in the Middle East, because it's very easy to spark that everlasting barrel of explosive called the Middle East by telling Israel, okay, let's go into gear, let's have another war. Whether it's with Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, I think we're going to see more of that, because it's always a good diversion from everything else that's happening, and they switch on the button when they want this to divert people from other things that are happening. Beginning of COVID, I was shocked like everyone at home, and around July 2020, when the Enabling Act came about and the state of emergency, I realized that something wrong's happening to our democracy, and I left home, started protesting, and for 2+ years I've been in the streets protesting, and also doing a lot of content work to increase awareness here in Israel to what's happening.
And to summarize, what was it like here? What was the response to COVID?
So the response to COVID was really severe. I don't think as severe as Australia, but we were up there. I think every country had its own role to play, and Israel had the role of the vaccines with the Pfizer agreement that is hidden from us. We don't know what it says for 30 years now. And Israel chose to put 200 million plus shekels on a propaganda to push vaccines onto people. And there was no jab, no job. You know, we had everything, the mandates and the whole thing. With the 200+ million, they succeeded with 6.5 million people out of 9 million in Israel to get the first vaccine, but the fifth one in the last cycle, only 850,000 people. So that's a big failure. And then with the kids as well. So we had that role. I think we failed it. And then on top of that, when we had the change government coming into play a year and a bit ago, we were hoping that that government is going to cancel the state of emergency and the Enabling Act, bring democracy back. That's what they promised. They failed their base. They were mostly left-wing, the one that promised that. They failed their base, and therefore some of those parties, the left-wing parties, are not with us anymore. They didn't pass the threshold in this last cycle of elections a few days ago. So we're seeing a lot of disappointed Israelis because of the measures, because of the mandates, because of the promises made and not kept. And a good example is Meretz party, a left-wing party. For 30 years, it lives on the ticket of human rights. And now the Ministry of Health of Israel was the chairman of that party, and he ruined human rights for Israelis. And therefore, this party did not pass the threshold this year. So for the first time in 30 years, they're not in the parliament. And so we're seeing now a right-wing government coming into play, with Bibi coming back now after he started in 2020, right? And he brought about everything we saw. He's coming back now to continue what he started with Pfizer and the agreement. And then we're seeing a few more topics, in my opinion, that he's going to tackle.
An interesting phenomena that we saw in Israel that was different than the rest of the world is the left and right divide on COVID specifically. So around the world, it has generally been right-wing conservatives that have been anti the mandates, anti the lockdowns, anti the COVID narrative, and the left wing have really been pro pushing it all.
Yes.
In Israel, it seems that, well, firstly, Bibi was the conservative, and he was a COVID tyrant, as much as I have always respected him, and it was a very left-wing base that were protesting it. Why the difference?
Well, it's funny. We also hoped that the left liberal will be the one to break that cycle that Bibi started, but they joined him. And like in polka, they matched and they raised. They went all in with
that was the new government. But what about the protest, the grassroots? Why was it so left wing here as opposed to right wing, whereas the rest of the world was the other way?
Yeah, I think that in the end of the day, it comes down to morals and ethics and just being a human being. So it didn't matter whether you're a left or right here. It just mattered if you had morals and ethics. That pushed people into the street calling for freedom. So we didn't see much of the left being a hope. We didn't see the right wing being a hope. Like in America, you have all the Republicans and the more conservatives being the ones. So it didn't happen here. It's not happening here. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with the character of the Israelis being very well indoctrinated to take authority. That's why we're being sent to the army when we're 18 and we're being taught what authority is, and they all complied. So we saw huge amounts of compliance here, and it takes a lot to bang on people's doors or their heads and tell them, hey, wake up, something's happening here and it's not right. I think now with Bibi coming back, the lefties are discovering that again because they're very scared of Bibi's steps. He can be very extreme if he wants to. I think that's one of the reasons why Bibi is back now. I think it's the WEF pulling strings and wanting Bibi to come back and continue what he started, because Naftali Bennett was a big failure in doing that. Maybe Bibi will succeed. I think we're seeing a very interesting political picture here. I'm not in politics anymore. I don't believe in it anymore. I think they're all liars, left and right. It doesn't matter. There are no truthful, honest politicians in Israel anymore. All MPs are the same, and they're doing the same stuff. So they may be promising different things. In the end of the day, we're seeing them doing the exact same things, even the ones that are calling for human rights. The left has two streams as well. The left is also in divide and conquer mode, because we have groups inside the left, which is terrible. Like Israel is really heavily impacted by divide and conquer. And so we have groups saying, just not Bibi because he's bad and he's corrupt with all the trials that are going on against him. And there are groups inside the left saying human rights and don't hurt our rights here in Israel. And they're not working in unison. They're not working together, which is very hard. So the left is not united, and you're hearing different voices. And some people now, with Bibi coming back, are scared because of the wrong reasons. They're scared because it's Bibi and he's corrupt, and they're aware that he can do bad things and he has no limits. But they don't want to accept the fact that he hurt people with the COVID measures and with his COVID policies, and the government that came after him, although they were lefties, like most of them, they didn't make any change. They are not seeing it clearly for what it is. They're under this I don't know, psychological impact of thinking left and right, and Bibi is wrong and left is good, and so we gotta break that cycle, and we gotta look at who's good for the people, who's good for what we need. So I think we need to buckle up. I think we need to hang on tight to what's coming, and I think that the people of Israel, most of the left side and the ones that didn't win this election, are very desperate now, and they're thinking about relocating. They're thinking about how are we going to survive here with this extreme right government. What I want to say to everyone is there's nowhere to hide. The whole world is impacted. Like, we're seeing global changes happening in many countries at the same time, including Israel. We have just different timings. And I think we need to just make sure that if we don't think of a rule or a law is just, don't comply, don't play the game, and take care of your family, take care of yourself financially, mentally, physically, and build your community to be able to support you in difficult times. I think we're going into like a few hard years, and people need to be aware of that.
If you enjoyed this report, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, share it far and wide so the rest of the world gets to see the other side of the story from here in Israel. And if you're willing and able, please go to bibireturns.com to chuck in a few bucks to help us fund this trip. None of this is possible without your support. bibireturns.com.
Hello, how are you
doing,
my
mate?
friend?
You good?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the election?
About the election, look, because I'm a bit of the right side decision, I'm a bit happy. Like, we need
Yes.
We need to get and accept everybody as they are, and without wrong looking at them, or it's their life, they're supposed to do what they want to do, and that's it. Maybe we all live together one day.
There you go. bibireturns.com.